Hello, 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 and welcome to Getting Real with Paula. My name is Paula Alphonse, and tonight we are talking to Luisa Ferrario. Luisa is a global entrepreneur, and tonight's topic is the pandemic, but really from the perspective of the many positive aspects that it has brought to the work environment in terms of positive opportunities on many fronts. So, without further ado, I will call on Luisa. Hi, good evening, Luisa, and so happy to have you here with us.
Hi, Paula. I'm so happy as well. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Such an honor. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure. I'll start by asking you, if you don't mind, to tell us a little bit about you, who you are, what you do, how long you've been a freelancer and entrepreneur. Just give us a bit of sense of where you come.
Yes, yes, yes. So I am originally from Italy, and I am living abroad in Europe. Let's say around Europe because I love the word global, and so I define myself a global entrepreneur and also a global citizen. Now I am in the wonderful island of Cyprus, and I live here. But I just finished my previous living in another wonderful country that was Austria. I started my entrepreneurship when I was 30 years old. Now I am 52. And back then I was in the music field because my ex-husband was in that field, and there was a good opportunity to do something together, and so we had a company, and we did very interesting things, connecting the music industry and people who wanted to get in touch with the music industry. And this is a first thing that talks about myself. So the connection, I like so much to connect people, to connect dots, to connect thoughts, to connect hearts. This is a thing that really speaks about me. And then I found out many other things that were in my interests, and um, 18 years ago I found out, 18, 19 years ago I found out about coaching, and this magic word started to talk to my heart immediately, and it was really a love at first sight. And so I wanted to have the opportunity to build a career out of that vocation that I was feeling so strong, and that was matching so much many aspects of my personality, of my character, of the way I think about things, and so on and so on. And back then, it also gave me the opportunity to work from home since then. So we are talking about when I started my current activity, it was 15 years ago. And I was working on the phone with my clients. And that back then they were just in Italy. And this is why I think that the pandemic has been very good to some extent, let's say like that,
Mhm.
um, because we had the chance to do a lot of things that otherwise we wouldn't do. And I started to work in this way because my daughter was very young back then, and now she's 25, but it was 8 years old. And I was a single mom, and I really wanted to spend as much time as I could with her, and at the same time to develop my business and to express my vocation and express myself.
Thank you for sharing. I read somewhere that you call yourself a rebel transformative leader. Can you
Exactly.
expand a little on that? Tell us what that means to you.
Okay, so first of all, rebel come from a communication style that is one of the communication tools that I use to map communication styles in leaders and entrepreneurs. And rebel is one of those styles. It basically means that you are an individual who express himself or herself in a bold way, and is very courageous and wants to say things from the bottom of his or her heart, and with no shame at all. So this is where first it came from. Then I put the two words transformative and rebel together, because a transformation is something like the blood that goes in
Yes.
my veins. Yeah, if I think about myself when I was a kid, I always wanted to be an alchemist in a way. I also had a career as a this is fun as a chef, a vegan chef. I had a restaurant. I had a school to teach people how to make wonderful menus with vegan food, and so alchemism is something that really has been in my life since
Mhm.
the very beginning, and transformation is about alchemy. And yeah, and I truly believe that each one of us has its transformative way
Mhm.
of showing up in the world. We just don't know sometimes how to figure this out and
Mhm.
how to put it in place. But actually, we that are coaches and mentors and facilitators, we just help people to bring out what is already in there.
I love the way you say it because indeed, transformation. A lot of people assume that it's something that you're doing on the inside, on the outside, but actually, it starts on the inside. And
Always.
what you see is just the result of that change within, which is, not everybody wants to know all of the details because they're like, no, I don't want to change. Just make it better. That's
Yeah, 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 yeah,
just
exactly.
make it better. Yeah, but it's gonna require a little bit of digging, whichever way you look at it.
Exactly. And this is also the reason why I published my first book 10 years ago. That is, let's say, that the title in English sounds like Befriend with Change, because otherwise it's a mess otherwise.
And it's interesting because we're talking pandemic and you're talking be a friend of change. And the last 2 years have brought massive change on so many fronts. Part of our conversation was about when we were discussing, it's like, how has the pandemic widened the opportunities?
Yeah.
So I'd like you to maybe share with us some of the things that you've seen in terms of examples of things that didn't used to be, but now are part of, this new way of thinking about work.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So, to some extent, we are now more free than ever, because I have been talking to so many people, leaders, people who work in organizations on any levels,
Mhm.
entrepreneurs, and at the end of the last 1 year and a half, we are all we have all more freedom than before, because now we can choose in a more deliberate and conscious way whether we want to be in person or to be
Mhm.
on a media like this one, or like Zoom, or like whatever it is, Google Meet,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, Teams. And this is a way also for us to choose to spend more time for ourselves. That is
Mm-hmm.
so much importance. And all the time that we were used to spend for the commuting, it is something that I really suggest to use for ourselves and to
Mm-hmm.
improve ourselves. It could just be 15 minutes a day, but it would be magic if implemented. And so I guess that our work-life balance really improved
Mm-hmm.
thanks to the pandemic. Of course, there has been a lot of other things that, okay, we know were
Mm-hmm.
not. It would have been much better to get to that point without going through the pandemic. But sometimes there are things that we cannot change or cannot choose completely.
And I like the way you say it. And I'm not sure that we could have gotten here without the pandemic. I remember being in a work environment 5, 10 years ago. And I know I was one of those individuals that here and there had the opportunity to work remote. So I knew it was feasible. My boss knew it was feasible. But depending on the organization you work with, depending on the comfort zone of certain employers, those were not provided as large in a context of anyone can have it. Then the pandemic hit and it became, can we still do business or not? And all of a sudden it felt as though, whoof, the doors opened wide. And I would say in a matter of weeks, top months, 2 or 3 months, everybody was working, or almost everybody was able to work in some ways from home. And
Yeah,
that's the part where the technology was there, but the mindset was not yet
yeah,
there for a lot of people. And I'm saying this, and it's a term, as that has happened, it has opened new perspectives both on the employee side and on the employer side, as well as different career paths. Because if I
absolutely.
thought I had to go to this location in order to do my job, now also that I'm thinking, I could be in Zimbabwe and work from somewhere in for someone in London, and that would still work. And again,
Exactly.
it's all about the technology, and
Exactly.
that's a widening of the thinking. And I love it when you mention it. You've mentioned earlier this part about making time for self. All the
Yeah.
time we had in the car, going back and forth, picking up the kids at daycare, dropping off here, running through the madness to get the dinner ready. And also, we no longer have that, at least for the
Yeah.
time being. The
Yeah.
question becomes, is the the workplace that we knew, able to accommodate what we've tasted?
Mm.
What's your opinion on that?
My opinion comes from what I have explored with friends, with clients, with colleagues, and we all agree that a hybrid way of working could be the best one. For some professionals, just working remotely, it's okay. So, for instance,
Mhm.
I have been working totally remotely. I mean, totally remotely means 90% of my time remotely. I started 8 years ago because we had Skype and we had all these technologies that were allowing that. But as I was mentioning before, I started working with the phone many years ago. And my
Mhm.
shift occurred once I was the coach of a vice president sales of a multinational company with the headquarters in Canada, and he had his office in Germany, and the headquarters was in Canada. and his family was in Italy, and he is the father. Back then he was the father of 4, with the 5th kid
All the
on his
way.
way.
Hmm.
And so we started working together. That there were 4 kids, and then there were 5 kids when we ended. And basically, he was leading an international team of 12 people, 12
Hmm.
professional executives, and 11 of them came from a different country, and they had a different language, and they had a different religion, that they had different ways of looking at life. So it was really, really a challenge for him to be the only one who could believe that was possible. And so he found in me a supportive, let's say, partner, business partner, and we really figured out how he could handle all those things, because mainly he was working from the lounge of the airports. So he was making his calls and so on and so on. Mainly, he was telling me that he was not entering, sometimes not entering his office in Germany for weeks. So what do we do? And so we were able to find solutions and to really let his team connect, because that was the big issue also back then. And it was even worse because we didn't have what we have what we have today in terms of technology. And this is one thing. The other thing, for instance, is that a very close friend of mine, who is a middle manager, he's very introvert, but very, very introvert. And he just had a promotion because in the last 1 year, as an introvert, he could work from home, and uh, he didn't have to feel the pressure of being surrounded by other colleagues,
Hmm.
and that was a huge obstacle for him. And so, with this obstacle away, his performances skyrocketed, and he just got a promotion, and we were celebrating the other day. That's magic.
I like. I like what you're saying because it's this part where definitely remote work is not for everybody. Some
Absolutely.
individual that are more outgoing might enjoy being in the workplace with a lot of people around them, while others it's just like I need to think, and all of you are annoying my thinking, are preventing me from doing my best work. So
Yeah.
it depends,
Yeah.
and it's all about adjustment. And when you were talking about that hybrid model, which mean for it could be different for people within the same team, it could be
Yeah.
different within different organization, but at the same time I would tend to take that this is an opportunity for employees and employer to plan out what that would look like concretely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
it's like there's some employers who've already decided, yeah, everybody's remote, we're never coming back. There are others who like, oh no, everybody's coming back. But it it's a bit of a medley where everybody's trying to find their way through that process.
Yeah.
In your opinion, how will the employer manage the role, the responsibilities, and the accountability that they want from their team, but as well from the individual, one employee at a time?
Yeah. Well, I get communication. The way we communicate is key to give you a reply on this topic, because what I found out is that sometimes, most of the times actually, we do not ask questions. So, for instance,
Mm.
one of the most important things to do in order to be sure that responsibility, accountability, and so on are in place is to ask questions to the individuals of the team and then to the team as a whole. What would you like to do in order to? How do you intend to? How does your life in the team and outside of the team looks like if you are accountable, responsible, and blah, blah. So asking questions to those who are in charge to give you the answers or to have the answers and to assure you that your expectations as an employer are met is really to ask questions to those who are in the team.
And it's interesting. I hear what you're saying, and it brings me back to when I used to be a manager. And early on in my practice, both with my teams and also in my classroom, I've always liked to do those rules of engagement. And rules of engagement were that sense of how do we choose to work as a group? What are those things that work for you, doesn't work? Where should we have meetings? How long should those meetings be? So it's this part where you're getting the pulse of how do they like or they feel they do their best work. But then as you're having those conversations, you still have the other side, which is building that relationship with the employees.
Absolutely.
Because without that, you can't understand the impact of what it is that you're doing as an individual and how it is that it's impacting not only the team, but the goals that we're trying to meet.
Let me add a thing. That I think it is very important. Together with asking question, we should also be very active in listening. This is another key point. First of all, listen to ourselves. And this, we go again back to the beginning. So we need, it's not that we need to lead from the inside out. It's not the other way around. It has never been like that. Otherwise, you are a boss. You are not a leader. This is for sure. Every research is now showing that this is the thing, and I think that we can all agree on that. So when we start working on ourselves, the first thing that gives us the pulse that we are doing a job with ourselves that is really working is that we feel more space inside. And in this space, there is much more silence than before. And in this silence, there is a lot to listen, So whenever something is crossing our conversations, inner conversations, or conversation that we have with others, this space is receptive to something subtle, to something that is usually it's not untold, unspoken. Yeah, this is the word that is unspoken, but it is very, very important to listen to. And this is another thing that I would like to add.
And as you're saying this, it brought to mind those unconscious bias, because we often come into conversation and we think we already know, we already figured out what's the best way to move forward. And then the other person brings a different maybe perspective. And sometimes there's the clash into what I thought was my perfect solution. And what you're bringing is just like, think I like my solution better. I think we should go this way. But then that's the voice inside. And then there's the outside voice that said, oh, I understand. Okay. And how could we make this work? And the how could we make this work is not just the logistic, is the thought process. Because there used to be this perspective that if I don't see you, you're not working.
Exactly.
The pandemic has clearly proven that's not the case. But I'm sure there are still people that are thinking, if I sent you an email and you haven't responded 10 minutes later, you're not working. You must be doing something else. And it's just like, okay, yes, there's a few other things I could be doing, like working on a report and turning off the screen. There's different things. And it's
Yeah,
that thought process. How do we work with that understanding?
yeah,
And as you say, the listening in, but also the paying attention to the other. It's
absolutely,
huge.
absolutely.
It's huge. And those are things that maybe in the busyness of the way we used to work,
Hmm?
we didn't give it time, but there were nonverbals that we could get that was maybe a little easier. But when
Hmm.
you're working remote and there's teams across the world, different time zone, whew, you need to own up on quite a few more skills in order to be able to gauge what's happening on either side.
Absolutely. One of the best practice that I would suggest when we connect with someone, maybe we just spoke to them, I don't know, the day before or via email, but let's assume that we are starting a meeting. I would suggest to ask about the front of mind, because sometimes this is something to get rid of, or at least to park somewhere and not to have in the way while having the team meeting or just a conversation one-on-one. Because for instance, yesterday I had a very huge day, because I flew very early in the morning. It was 5 in the morning from Austria to Cyprus, because I am relocating definitely to Cyprus after my Austrian experience. And I had so many things, but yesterday afternoon I also had a business conversation, and I was very, very glad that the person I was talking to
Mhm.
asked me, "How are you doing?" First, secondly,
And listen to the answer. Yes.
yes. Secondly, she asked, um, "Is there anything that you would like to share before we start our talk?" And I, I was about to cry because I was so happy. Usually I am the one who asks these questions, and I was so happy that she asked, because really that put me in a state of relaxation, and I felt understood, I felt welcomed, I felt that she was seeing me, she was listening to me, she was accepting me, and she was really, really eager to listen to whatever answer I was about to give her. It was such a relief.
I love it. From my perspective, I call that the personal side of the conversation.
Mm.
Sometimes we go into conversation being so transactional and not getting to know the individual. So, just those two questions: how are you? And is there something you want to share before we start the business? It could be, right? I'm in the way. I'm expecting a call, or my child just dropped something in the kitchen. Whatever it is, can I
Exactly.
call you right back? Whatever it is, it's the sense where let's remove whatever distraction there is, so
Yeah.
that now we can focus on what needs to be focused. And it
Yeah.
could be that depending on what's happening, it might be the choice to let's reschedule that conversation. But it's giving that courtesy of
Yeah.
asking and figuring out what's happening on the other side.
Exactly.
When you think about for you, some of the greatest takeaway from the pandemic, what comes to mind? And we're talking just you, not what you've seen elsewhere, but what I've experienced firsthand, and I was able to see I'm not the only one getting that.
It's my capacity of networking. It
Yeah.
became, I don't know, 10 times better because of
Okay.
what happened. I really started to give attention to that part of human connection, and that sometimes leads to business connection. Not always, but for me, as an individual, the human connection comes first, then the business one. And what I found out is that almost all the people that I am in contact with really started to give value to networking as a way of putting the other person in a position of care. I mean, you care for the other one.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have been able to.
I think I understand. You're saying networking, but what I'm hearing is we went a step further in the networking where we started paying attention to the people and
Yeah,
checking in on the people,
yeah,
getting a
and
sense
caring for
of,
them. Yeah,
yes, is there anything I can help you with, rather
absolutely,
than I need something from you? Because for me,
absolutely.
when I used to think about networking, it was just like, okay, can I get him or her to purchase a service, make a partnership, or whichever? It was more on the transaction.
Yeah,
But now it's just like, okay, you need a 5 or 10 minutes to chat on XYZ. Okay, let's have that conversation. So yes, your neighbor is utterly annoying and has done a
yeah.
blah blah blah. Could there be suggestion that I can make or that we could
Connection.
discover as we're talking in order to address some aspect? And that's,
Yeah,
I have to say, I agree with you. For me as well, during that pandemic, the type of conversation. So even if you had a 15-minute call, there's that portion where there's a little more conversation before you get to
yes.
the topic. So it's no longer just that 15 minutes and let's get out of the way checklist.
Yeah, exactly. The quality of the conversation definitely improved.
Okay, good to hear. Um, in terms, and maybe you know, maybe you don't know, I am all about boundaries. So what are some of the boundaries that you have implemented either in your personal or your professional life as a result of the pandemic, or has it changed
Boundaries.
anything?
um, yes. So I became more. I don't know if strict is the right word. So let me say what comes to my mind, and then we can rephrase it if we need it.
Okay.
No, it's not strict. It is disciplined. Okay, is that a
Mm-hmm.
word that exists in English? Disciplined.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So
And
I became more disciplined with myself because before I was giving a lot of things for granted. So, for instance, I was expecting that my body was working the way I was thinking it should work. And the same for my emotional body, and the same for my psychological body. But there has been a moment at the very beginning of the pandemic. I don't know when you went in the first lockdown. We went in March. It was mid-March, and I was not worried at all. I have to admit that at the beginning, I just had a very superficial relationship with what was going on, and after a month, I started to realize what was really going on. And I'm not talking about people having coronavirus or people dying. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about the financial crisis that has been. Not talking about the economics. I'm talking about how people were feeling because of the situation.
mm-hmm.
So about
Yeah.
feelings, about emotions, about the mindset. And I started having. I started tapping into the energy of despair, of
Mm-hmm.
fear, of
Mm-hmm.
panic, of
Yeah.
depression. Um, and when I realized that, I started every day checking in with my bodies in
Mm-hmm.
order to check what they might need from me in order to be healthy, productive,
Mm-hmm.
joyful. And so, regarding boundaries, I guess that this has been the biggest one.
Uh, Interesting. Interesting. For me, it's the sense where we started to getting real with Paula because of the pandemic. And because I have worked in change management for so many years, I could see that the panic, I could see that the desperation, I could see that the sense of, okay, what's going on? Everything is a threat was connected to that sense of uncertainty, that sense that I no longer had control over my reality or felt I had control over my reality. And it's because all that we thought was predictable was no longer there.
Yeah,
And in that context, it's how do you help people realize we can still make our way? Because let's just, if we look at the beginning of the human race,
yeah,
they didn't have a TV telling them what was going to happen today. They
yeah,
didn't have, they had to learn to live with that environment and figure out their path forward. And I think the pandemic has forced us to realize that, okay, there's so many things I had already taken for granted, and I couldn't see how to move forward and how to make it happen. And it's the sense where, as individual, it's going back inside and checking what's important, what truly
exactly,
matters to you. Once you do
exactly.
that, then all of a sudden it's just like, you know what, I don't need to worry about this thing, there's nothing I
Yeah,
can do about that. So
exactly.
what else can I pay attention to, and how quickly can I restore that sense of inner peace and, as you say,
Yeah,
joy, happiness within? Because there's always going to be something. And
yeah,
in all fairness, even before the pandemic, you would leave the home and go to work, and something bad could happen still. Sometimes it did for some people, sometimes it did not, but that possibility was always there. But with the pandemic, it felt like it was almost right in your face constantly. So that was
yeah,
in a bit the difference.
yeah, exactly.
If I was to ask you, what would be three nuggets that you could give to women either interested in changing the way they think about their environment, or even starting an enterprise, or being more of an entrepreneurial perspective or approach in their life? What would be those three things you would suggest to pay attention to?
Okay, that's a question that I really love. Thank you. And so, the first one relates to the boundaries. So, put yourself first. This is also
Ah,
one of my
yeah.
payoffs, but put yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
I always remind to myself that when we fly, they give us instructions in case of
Ah.
something that might happen, and so they tell us to
Mhm,
put the mask on ourselves first, and
mhm,
then to put the mask on someone else's. And this
mhm.
seems to be so reasonable when they tell you that, but I don't know why we do not use this reason and this logic when it is our everyday life.
Yep.
So put yourself first, and this to expand a little bit more on that, I would say that to if you are about to start something as an entrepreneur, or for instance, you can also, I mean, if you are a business leader, um, I advocate for organizational entrepreneurship. So as a business leader, you can also be an entrepreneur in your company and have the entrepreneurial mindset. Okay, so this applies both to leaders and to entrepreneurs. And so I would say to just just go and just choose what brings you joy. Because at the end of the day, I see many people who are not. They might be successful, but they might be unfulfilled. So this is a thing
Yes.
that I call the unfulfilled success, and it is a pity. I mean, you put so many efforts in doing something, and sometimes you also choose to say no to many things, and this should be because you say yes to things that really matters, because they really make the difference in the way you perceive your life, and the way you get things back from life. And joy is one of the most important things that we could have back. So back to your question. Put yourself first by choosing what gives you joy uh, in work, and obviously also in
In your personality, yeah.
in the personal life. But it's better to say than not to say it. Yes. Uh, the second thing could be to be very, very clear and specific on the kind of lifestyle that you wish to experience with your life. Because again, what I see is people who put together a business, but they do not ask themselves first and foremost, how do they expect their lifestyle to be once the business has been through the normal phases that every business goes through. A third one could be, yeah, I already said that before, to network with
Okay.
like-minded entrepreneurs, like-minded people, and be selective. I mean, let the door
Yeah.
and the heart open to everybody, but in terms of dedicating your time, just give your core time to core people who really helps you to make the difference in a very let's say um, how can I call that contributing egoistic way, if you know
Uh,
what I mean.
I definitely, it's this part where, at least on that one, what I'm hearing is like, if you want to create a change, you have to associate with people that are in that can contribute to you getting to that change. If
Exactly.
you can't, if you want to be a jogger, you can't just hang around with the people that do the marathons, because it's not the same techniques. So it's
Yeah.
understanding what I need, what I want, and how do I get there. And stay around the people who can teach me how to travel that path. That doesn't mean cut off everybody else. It's
No,
just
no,
that,
absolutely.
as you say, your core time,
Time.
learning
Yeah.
time has to be with those individuals that can
Yeah.
actually help you make that transition to the
Yeah,
next stage.
exactly. As I was mentioning before, we feel that because we have a sense of expansion, we have a sense of lightness, we have a sense of okay, we can make that happen. Okay, so when we feel that, I guess that is the right path to go. And in order to exponentialize not just our impact, but because when we match with people that are this kind of like-minded people, everything exponentializes for everybody. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's a win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win situation.
With everywhere. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
So,
I am kind of mindful of time. We're getting close to the hour. So I would say, for you, what would be that one key message that you would want to leave with the audience? If there was somebody who just caught in, just got into this conversation right now, and we're about to close, what is the one thing you want them to take away from Luisa?
Okay. So again, in order to be mindful regarding your time, your resources, your energy, your money, whatever you put into your business, into your career, get a mentor, get a mentor coach, get a coach, get whatever you need that can help you co-create strategies, and most importantly to implement them step by step. Because at the very beginning of my career, if I have had this kind of business partner in my environment, it would be magic. And I had to to do
Learn the
my,
hard way.
learn the hard way. Yeah, thanks for
Yeah, no, no. I can definitely understand you. We usually don't know what we don't know.
yeah,
So that's where those people come in, because they flag those elements that could make the journey easier, rather than have you climb the Himalaya for every single step of the journey. So
yeah,
it's
exactly,
understanding that. Okay.
exactly, exactly.
So how can people get in contact with you or hear about some of the future activities that you're having?
So I have a website that is www.luisaferrario.com, and they can get in contact with me through my email, that is contact at luisaferrario.com, or they can get in contact with me on LinkedIn. There they will see my posts, and there are posts that are sharing tips, tricks, and that can also make very good connections. And so it is a way that I like to contribute to people indirectly. So expressing myself in a way that can contribute to others. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It has been a pleasure. Uh,
Same
I
here.
I realized that we caught you in one of those transition moments. I have to say that smile on your face doesn't describe the lack of sleep and the I don't know where I am yet until I find my final destination. But it has been a pleasure. And I know you've mentioned a few times that you love change. And let's just say right now, as I'm seeing you, I'm not seeing the sense where, oh, that comes with those transition moments. I'm sure
No.
that they must appear every now and then, but
Yeah,
you
yeah,
seem
yeah.
to be doing just fine
Yeah.
on that.
Sometimes I don't know if it is fear or if it is excitement. So I choose excitement and I go for that.
It's all about mindset, as you were saying. It is all
Exactly.
about mindset. So thank you again, and
Thank you
looking
to you, Paula.
forward to way more conversation with you.
Ciao.
Bye bye.